So I want to talk a little bit about technique and understanding what technique is. The more you think about technique, you can kind of break it apart into two different parts. One is the movement itself. So the movement would be the steps. Let's say you break a technique into three parts. 1, 2, 3. Understanding that movement, knowing where your hands and arms, or your legs, your head, your hips, understanding where your body parts have to move in relationship to somebody else's body parts. That's just the movement itself. The second part of the equation of understanding technique is the timing, right? Knowing when to move, knowing when they're moving left, you need to be moving right, or when they're moving in this direction, you need to be going in that direction. And understanding those two parts, I think, helps understand the concept of learning technique. Sometimes we struggle with technique because maybe our movement isn't correct, right? So we compensate for that with more strength, more aggression, more speed. We move faster, and we get thrown off because our movement isn't correct. So whenever you're learning a technique, make sure you're doing the movement correctly. And there's variations within movements, and that variation works. And then there's variations where we start combining similar movements, and that doesn't work. So know and understand what the correct variations are and how your movement can be precise, or how it's incorrect and how you need to correct it. So that's part one. The next part is the technique, or the timing, I guess. The next part of technique is the timing. Understand your timing. Now, the timing isn't just what you do, or it's not just when you do it. It's about when somebody else is doing it. So you have to understand when you're dealing with timing, there's a window of opportunity, and in that window of opportunity, as the level increases, that window of opportunity diminishes, right? Maybe if you're a white belt, if you're a beginner learning something, you have a good 1 to 2 to 3 second window to do a certain movement. As you progress and you become more skilled, and so does the other person, and they know what you're trying to do, or they think they know what you're trying to do, that window of opportunity begins to diminish. And you could think of that timing as that window of opportunity. It's not just the window of opportunity. So know and understand that with timing, it has to do with really understanding the movement and knowing as they're moving here, you're going there, right? So be careful, because sometimes we get confused as to timing as being a window of opportunity. And again, if our timing isn't correct, what do we do to compensate for that? I think we start to use more aggression. Sometimes we change the mechanics or the movement, right? And if we're changing our movement when it was already correct, that's not good. What else happens? Sometimes we start to do things faster again. But the timing could be that you need to maybe slow things down. Maybe you're moving too fast when you're drilling it, and they're not moving fast enough. And that's kind of the difficulty of drilling or practicing a movement, is you're drilling at a different speed than you would be doing it in competition, or in a live role, or in a sparring role. So know and understand that there is a difference in the timing. There's a difference in the movement, and don't be afraid to slow things down. Don't be afraid to speed things up, but ask the questions, right? How is my timing? How is my movement? Are these syncing with one another? The tendencies for us to compensate, or what we do to change, is one, we move faster or slower, so our speed changes. Another thing that happens is we use more strength most of the time. Maybe you need less strength, right? Because really, technique has nothing to do with strength, or very little to do with strength. It's your movement and it's your timing. Something else that we do, as a result of doing these things, though, we start to feel frustrated, and then we start to change things, right? So again, don't get caught up in changing things. Figure out which component is incorrect. If your movement's correct, okay, then let's work on the timing. If your timing isn't correct, or if your timing is correct, you know the timing, okay, then let's make sure that the movement is correct. But start with the movement. That's the easiest one to remember. And then work your way into understanding the timing, right? And again, drilling is different than rolling, okay? So you need to know that you need to have a good partner. You need to be working with your partner in order to be training together. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should be blaming your partner. Oh, it didn't work because he's doing it this way, right? Maybe they're just not giving you the appropriate reaction. That's a good time to say, hey, could you give me this reaction? Hey, could you slow it down a little bit? Hey, I'm still trying to learn the movement. Could you kind of give me less resistance, right? So give your partner feedback. Help your partner become a better drilling partner so that you can learn the technique better. Again, technique is a combination of your movement and your timing. I'm curious to see your thoughts and comments. Please feel free to comment below or send me a message, give me a phone call, and let me know your input on what technique is. I'm curious to hear more about it. I'll talk to you guys later.